All right, well, let's get this thing going. You realize after a while that when you start reading your script you wrote yourself, it says, okay, welcome to the 18th Annual Petoskey Regional Chamber of Commerce. I am once in the chair, greatly honored to be the chair of this for 18 years, and you realize you're getting just a little older in the chair. It's pretty neat to see this because we started this 18 years ago, and even before that we had the economic luncheon, so it's great to see that. I'm looking around the crowd right now. I see many people that have been here for multiple years in this event, so thank you for coming. It is just a neat area to kind of look at everything from the state of the community versus just the state of the state or larger state of the union. So as you look at this and you kind of get a little feel for everything, we try to take excerpts out of different sectors in our area and try to see what we're doing on a positive aspect and how it's being affected. So again, my name is Dan Lettingham from Edward Jones Investments. We've done this for quite a while. We have multiple speakers today. So it's an interview style program again. So we have 3 different stations we're going to be running. The goal today really is to run as fast and as informative as possible. It's only going to be happening because we have major sponsors that have been here for years and years with us, and we're so thankful for that. Is that we have Cross Blue Shield, Consumers Energy, and OHM Advisors have been our main sponsors. So thank you so much for that. So as I looked across the crowd earlier today, I saw a couple dignitaries I want to recognize. Senator John DeMusa, the 30th. I saw you. There he is in the back. Thank you for coming today. State Representative Neil Frisk of 107. Are you here? Look, there he is. And once again, Honorable Regina Gasco Bentley, Chairperson Little Travers, Bay Band of Odawa Indians. I believe Blandon Cargo is here on behalf of U.S. Representative Jack Bergman. Kelly Lively is here on behalf of U.S. Senator Gary Peters. Thank you. It is an honor and a privilege to have you here. We really appreciate taking time out of your busy day. Let's begin by thanking our event host. This is an absolute gem in our area. It has been this way for decades and decades, and we are so thankful to have this unique piece of architecture and also history behind it. So please thank Crooked Tree Arts Center. We hope you had a great time going through the gallery. All right, speaking of beautiful, it is amazing, and I've been warned not to stain any of these pieces. It is such a blessing to have something like this in interview style. So we've only been because of donations of Quiet Moose and Coffin Furniture. So thank you so much for doing that. So in the back, before we just started, of course, I was partaking a little bit, and I want to also thank you personally to JoJo Cookies and Roast and Toast Cafe for providing all the refreshments. Once again, as history goes through, we have not just the interviews, we have a booklet that we put together for over 30 different agencies that put reports. It's a great check-in throughout the year. So grab your phones, take a look. We can up here, you get the QR code. If you hit the QR code on your phones, if you're able to do that, you can get the agenda for today and all of the booklet there. You don't have to at that point, but if you want to, you can. And if not, it's on the Chamber website also. So after that, turn your phones on mute. So I'm going to look in the background, because she always hides on me. Emily Stuchel has put together all of the background work with all of the reports and all of the different work. Where's Emily hiding at? Thank you, Emily. So our lead sponsor today is Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan. It's a longtime supporter of Petoskey Chamber and chambers across the United States. As we look at this, Susan Miller-Allen, she made it up, Senior Director, Community Responsibility and Social Mission. So please welcome Susan. Thank you. Yep. Good. There you go. Should be on.
All right. Well, thank you. I'm Suzanne Miller-Allen. I live in Traverse City and excited to be here. And it's some of you have not seen in a few years other than on a Zoom screen or my Facebook feed. So excited to be here in person. But I want to talk a little bit today. First of all, for those of you besides me wearing red, today is National Wear Red Day as part of the American Heart Association month. I think a couple weeks ago, our whole country and the world noted what happened when you have a cardiac event. The statistics around heart disease and heart health are very, very daunting. And most of the disease could be prevented if all of us would get the needed checks that we need. So I encourage you on your way out, pick up one of our cool mints as a little reminder about your own heart health. It started out as women, but now we've expanded it to men. Get your blood pressure tested, your glucose tested, your BMI regularly, and stay in good heart health. The other thing that I wanted to talk about, sadly in our region and other areas in the state, we have a lot of food insecurity. And we just issued 2 grants here in the Emmett County area with our partner, the United Dairy Industry of Michigan. And if you think about the dairy industry, they want people to drink and eat healthy milk and things that need to be refrigerated. So we partnered with them for smaller food pantries to provide refrigeration, and 2 in Emmett County received them, the Alanson Church of the Nazarene Pantry and the Harbor Springs Community Food Pantry both got and are getting new refrigeration to help meet the needs of the community and the people that they serve. So just want to mention that. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the support of the Chamber. Thank you for those of you who are our customers. And if you're not, see me afterwards. And go Red.
Thank you, Susan. Greatly appreciate it. We also want to thank our additional supporters of Consumers Energy and OHM Advisors, and like to share a little video from Consumers Energy.
At Consumers Energy, we believe change is imagining. Change is big, small, clean. Him, them, us, you. Together, we can bring clean energy to Michigan and protect the environment for generations to come. Learn about your clean energy choices and how you can become a force of change. consumersenergy.com/change.
Well, thanks again to all our wonderful sponsors. It's only because of them that we're able to do this. So now let's get this show started. Today's program, again, is maximum benefit, shortest amount of time. That's what I've been told, right? So we have hooks in the back to pull people out, so that's not a problem, including me. Each year we go through the reports submitted. We're just talking about. The interesting part is we've been through a unique 3 years in an environment. A lot of challenges that we've gone through. It's interesting when you start going through these reports, you're going to see a lot of collaboration that's happened. And it's across different industries, it's across different competitors, and so it's a real uniqueness, I think, that, and maybe it's only for our area, but they're pulling together. And one of the words that kind of came up a lot was so creative problem solving is probably one of the most unique ways to get through these hurdles and at the same time succeed. So as we've seen this, go through the reports, take a look. You're going to start to see more and more of that happening in our area. So speaking of problem solving, and speaking of maybe like our alliances and maybe some of our champions, I want to also bring over on the side of the stage Nikki DeVette, President of Petoskey Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Dan. So since 2020, it's been becoming increasingly clear that challenge and change are the new constant. So when we gathered together here last year, it was really interesting because we commented on the fact that we were hopeful things would start to level out again, and that we were already seeing things like record inflation, supply chain issues, crisis states in housing, workforce, childcare. We're like, okay, here we go, we got this. We're still doing it. But here's the thing. When we talked about the successes that we were seeing the prior year, collaboration, as Dan said, is what was key. And we talked about partnerships, and we were on to something, because although the challenges have continued in 22, the successes that propelled us forward have been greater than the challenges. Everyone gathering here today is a shining testament of that fact. So if you look around the room, and I actually literally want you to look around the room right now at each other, you're going to see community members, you're going to see businesses, organizations, individuals, municipalities, local, state government is all here, and you are all a part of working to solve the issues of our community, and we are very grateful for that. So give yourselves a round of applause. So as we've mentioned, and we say often, there's strength in partnerships. And in 2022, the Chamber had the privilege once again to work alongside and find solutions to create awareness on many issues and obstacles to our businesses and our community. We had great momentum with the Little Traverse Bay Housing Partnership, as well as Housing North, as we built relationships, addressed issues, and got wonderful legislation passed for the state of Michigan. And we'll talk more about that later. We know that's a critical problem. We know it is probably one of the #1 barriers to workforce in Emmett County at this time. We're proud to be a part of the team of North Central Michigan College and on their advisory council for the incredible work they're doing in childcare, which will heed results for our county. I hope if you did it, you made a contribution, because the survey that they were doing is really going to propel us forward to see what our next steps are for solving that issue. And we work with our legislators, both here locally and across the state, officials as well, to showcase our successes this year. We really wanted to highlight what we're doing right, but also say this is where you can help. And one of our speakers today is actually going to focus a lot more on the important aspects of the work of the Northern Michigan Chamber Alliance and why that is so vital for all of you here in this room as our Petoskey partner. So that's a snippet of the behind the scenes things we did. We were very happy, our staff, to welcome the return of our robust programming and events in '22. Being able to see familiar faces again and build our connections that fuel our community felt absolutely fantastic. We are thrilled to say we brought back our Leadership Little Traverse cohort this year, and they will graduate in May. And there's a bunch of you here, so LLT, class of 2023, stand up, please. That is a huge piece of moving forward despite challenges and obstacles in your place. And we have so much planned for you as your chamber for 2023. Programs and services that have true positive impacts, and they're going to blow your mind, and we cannot wait to show you. And I know I say this often, but the chamber team, we are grateful to be at the center of your community. We are grateful to be here for you, our businesses, our organizations, and we're grateful for the opportunity to help build a thriving Petoskey and surrounding areas for everyone. So with that, I'm going to now zip my lips and invite up our first group of speakers, and I'm going to turn it back to Dan for our first interview.
Come on down. There we go. I get to sit down and talk to you now for a while.
Awesome.
There you go. So North Central Michigan College is more than just an education provider for students. The Corporate and Community Education Department also meets training and educational needs. So you notice we're starting to do a little crossover here. And what the needs are, we're looking not just from a standpoint of local community members, but also economics. North Central has a real vested interest, I know that, inside of economic well-being for our area, and also how do they contribute. So recently though, really interesting to me, is that they launched the new Fast Track program. This is brand new that I've only heard just a little bit about, obviously you and I talking previously, but what I wanted to do is bring Dr. David Rowland Finley in, president of North Central, and just talk a little bit more about what your new programs are. It's a little unique, a little different from that point.
Sure, thanks. I'm excited to do that. So to complement our existing certificates, one-year certificates, and two-year degree programs, we've introduced Fast Track courses programming this past year. It really looks like this: 4 to 24 weeks, a rigorous online component, so people can do it at their own pace, kind of at their own place, followed by hands-on learning in a laboratory or clinical setting on campus, and a 2-week externship with a potential employer. So think of it as just in-time learning, right? Just enough learning. You garner that credential to take a first step in a career.
Interesting. So obviously there is a large difference between majority of the classes that you have at North Central, and it's has some similarities, some of the other ones that you were doing. We were talking like earlier today about the nursing program, some of that. So there is some crossover as you're looking at that. So the difference between the offerings you had previously and the new offerings now.
So this is really condensed to develop a skill set to earn an industry credential, right? Again, back to that just-in-time learning. Definitely a need to get folks in the jobs, working to fill the voids that are so prevalent.
Very interesting, very interesting. Okay, so now we look at this as a standpoint of trying to fill needs find the right participants, right
Mhm.
right students to go through this process. How do you determine which classes now are going to fit?
So we've been listening to the community, right? And matching that with strengths we have as a college. So think nursing, health sciences, think business, think manufacturing, and some of those degree programs, welding, medical assisting, bookkeeping with software, specialty software there, and areas new to us like HVAC technician or auto repair technician. And so really working to fill those voids that we're seeing in the community.
Perfect. No, that's great, because as I listen to a lot of either neighbors or friends or even clients, and that's obviously one of the desires they've all had.
Right.
It has been going on for a while, so I think that's going to fulfill.
And a big part of the success of this program is state funding, which covered a lion's share, the bulk of the tuition, to help people get good jobs post-pandemic.
How successful has it been? It's only been a year, right?
Well, and there should be a slide that pops up. So in our first year in medical assisting, we're going to produce 37 graduates of that course, another 21 phlebotomists. Prior to delivering education in this modality, less than 5 in each of those categories. So we're meeting the needs in a big, big way. And those students are successful. In that area in particular, a 94% pass rate on that industry credential compared to a statewide average of 68%. You want to get it done? Come to North Central. You knew I had to say that.
And that's a shameless plug, and that's okay.
All right.
Yep, that's not a problem at all. All right, so now you're getting some traction. Now you're getting some
Yep.
traction in the area. Let's maybe scale this
Sure.
in the future, kind of carry this forward. What are you thinking possibly could happen?
So we see this being, I'll say 10 to 15% of what we do as an academic institution. This really is intended to reach the returning adult learner or a high school student who doesn't think they're college bound, right? If I rewind 20 years, we have 2/3 the high school graduates in Northern Michigan than we did in 2002. And fewer of those graduates are choosing to go on to college. And yet they need that little something extra, right? To help them with meaningful work and a meaningful career. We want to be part of that success equation. There's a listing of the programs we currently have. Those 2 with asterisks will be added within this spring season. And we've got our ears wide open for more options and possibilities. So we see this being a big, big part of the future. Stay tuned.
Wonderful. Is there anything we can do to help support that?
Talk to us about the needs and opportunities. One of the challenges is finding both opportunities for that job placement externship and in some cases the laboratory setting, right? We don't have an auto repair facility on campus. And so both Fletch's and Kring, and we're open to many, many others, have helped us provide the resources to train those individuals.
That's great. That's great. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. That's good. That's
Thank
wonderful.
you.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, we're ingrained with North Central. Many of us either have gone to it or our neighbors and our friends and our family have gone through that. So it has been an interesting transition as we go through this. So I am really grateful as you look at this and you look at an opportunity to grow North Central into a direction that directly impacts our desires right now. And it's a tough area right now. So the workforce is number one for us, and especially from the chamber. I want to say thank you so much for coming today, spending some time.
Thank you.
Yep.
We're delivering the first step in the career ladder, and there are many, many more. Associate, right? We'll soon have a bachelor degree on campus in the area of nursing, partnering with a key university downstate. So
Wow,
thank you
look
so
at you,
much.
you're dropping tidbits as we go along. Well, next we'll transition to philanthropy and community with Lisa Hoyt. Lisa.
Thank you, Dan. Well, today we're talking with 2 organizations that have been in our communities for quite some time. And both of these organizations continue to make long-lasting impacts in our community. And now they are taking innovative approaches to meet specific needs. So joining us today are DJ Jones, Executive Director for the Harbor Springs Area Community Foundation, and Peter Bucci, who is the Executive Director of Harbor Hall. So thank you so much for joining us today. And we'll start with DJ. So the foundation, you celebrated your 30th anniversary last year. And I know that during last year, there were two really bold steps that you took in regards to childcare and housing. And we would love to have you talk a little bit more about that work and those details.
Great. Thank you, Lisa. Welcome, everybody. Glad to see you all. Peter and I got the love seat for today, so luckily we know each other really well. Listen, I'll just say this. Your Community Foundation works hard every day to improve the quality of life for all of us in Emmett County. And we know full well that there are access to affordable housing and childcare are two challenges in this community that have a really negative impact on our quality of life. So last year, we were pleased to partner with the college. For every one spot that a child has in the child care in this Emmett County, there's one that does not, is missing. So we were pleased to partner with North Central Michigan College. They have a wonderful child care initiative going on right now. And we partner with them by providing a $50,000 grant for that phase one of that initiative. And they're doing some fantastic research and studying the topic to learn more about how we can address that community issue. It's not as easy as just building more childcare buildings. There are multiple systemic issues around childcare that need to be looked at. So they're really taking a holistic approach. As I think Nikki mentioned at the outset, a great survey they're doing and reaching out to the community and getting more information. So we were really pleased to partner with the college on their childcare initiative. And then I suspect there's not anyone in this room that isn't aware that housing is a problem in this community. It might even be a crisis. So last year we took a very bold step and purchased real estate. We purchased the former Hankey Lumber lot on Emmett Street, Emmett and Fulton. The project is called Lofts of Lumber Square. It's a 60-unit apartment building for workforce housing on that block. We were all in favor of it. It was got all the approvals and was moving forward, but ran into the obstacle that just about every project does these days in this community with some funding. So rather than have it get canceled and go away, we said, listen, we've got to step in and help out. So we stepped up, a bold move for us, and purchased the property and said, let's try and make this Lofts project happen. So, yeah. Thank you. So we know full well that 60 units is not going to solve the housing problem, but we feel pretty confident investing in this project. It's the right thing to do. It's the best thing to do for this community to keep it going forward. So we're excited. I want to thank Han Development and Harbor Springs for hanging in there with us and being a great partner. And a big shout out too for the city of Petoskey and Emmett County for also supporting our efforts. We really appreciate it, the partnership. And that leads me to one final remark on it. Know full well that the Community Foundation cannot do any of this stuff on our own. It's all about partnerships and working together. And a huge hats off to Habitat for Humanity and Northern Home CDC. They've been great partners of ours over the years for lots of housing projects, and they're building homes in our community right now as we sit here and speak. So we appreciate all their partnership on that.
Once again, all of those partnerships and collaborations just helping to elevate our community. That's just great work. So we're going to jump over to Peter. So Harbor Hall, you're celebrating your 50th anniversary this year. And what began in a single family home in the Emmett Street area now has helped thousands of men and women with recovering from substance abuse. And you also are working on some innovative approaches, and you're expanding the types of services that you're offering. I know one thing is that your case managers are doing some new offerings. So if you could talk to us a little bit more about that.
Again, thank you for the platform and opportunity for our organization to be able to talk about what it is that we do in this city, region, state. We're mostly an anonymous group. at Harbor Hall, dealing specifically with addictions. The board of directors and the organization are very aware of the needs in our community, as the people that we service are people from our community. Our biggest concern is the access to care, not just housing, not just educational needs, but how to actually get a hold of them. And we've always dealt with a specialty service. So what Harbor Hall is now going to do in the last 2 years, we've actually begun to develop opening up and becoming a fully integrated facility and company. We deal with mental health, we deal with behavioral health, we deal with family issues, we deal with children issues, adolescents. We also deal with physical health as well. We have a primary care service. Partnering with the access issue is, how do people know that those services are available? And once they do enter into some type of programming, or those who don't, those who are struggling with housing needs, sometimes they need an expert in the field who can help them access housing, food assistance, employment assistance, job setups, anything like that, or access to the college. So we've developed a case manager program that is accessible to pretty much everybody. And they can assist any of the clientele that sign up with getting access to these services that the community already provides. That is what Harbor Hall believes is our area to expand and grow in. And that's what we're going to continue to do, is to be fully integrated and meet all of the needs that our community is asking for.
That's some incredible work. DJ, we're going to ask you to look into your crystal ball. And we're going to ask you, what does the next 30 years look like for the foundation and community leadership?
Great. Thanks. As long as you weren't going to ask me what the market's going to do for the endowment in the next 30 years. Right. So as you mentioned, last year the Community Foundation celebrated our 30th anniversary, a great milestone, and always fun to kind of stop, pause, and celebrate a milestone like that. So we did, and it was great. And then I also want to kind of reflect on the next 30 years, which we're doing. So as I think back, I think we are meeting the pretty bold vision of our founders to really bring together local generosity and connect it with local needs. If you think back just over 30 years, really that was a pretty courageous vision. If you think about starting a community foundation with $0, that's a pretty courageous vision to have. And I think we are kind of all steam, full steam ahead on that vision going forward, and really trying to just drive us forward on that vision. You know, we again took some time last year, created a rather ambitious strategic plan that has us looking forward as really kind of bold community leaders going forward. We really feel like it's our time to step up on some of these community issues. I think the law office is obviously one pretty big example of that, but we really do feel it's time in our history and in our just time in history here to step forward, take some bold leadership, address these issues that I've talked about today, but also have an eye on the other issues that are coming up and emerging, because we know that, again, we're here for good forever. There are needs in this community that will come up that we don't even know about today, but we're ready to take just a strong leadership role in the community going forward, and really continue to connect those community resources with community needs.
Thank you. Thank you. And Peter, we're going to jump back over to you. So Harbor Hall has big plans for the immediate future. And we were hoping you could talk a little bit about the expansion of those services, as well as developing primary care offices.
Yes, so, and I don't know when and where slides would be if they even got put up, but you all know that we've built a very large building. We will be able to now take in 32 additional people on campus to service their needs. It's short-term living arrangements, anybody transitioning from one area of life to another, providing a service sort of an on-campus style. Harbor Hall, like I said, provides primary care service. That is a standard community-based primary care offering. We accept all types of insurance, including Medicaid. Again, mental health, behavioral health, and addictions as well, as that is our foundation. We will be having a ribbon cutting, hopefully in the next few months, maybe April, something like that. And we will be, wanting to showcase that and have the community see what they have in their own community, in their own backyard. So again, Harbor Hall believes that we're intentionally expanding what was a single specialty into a fully integrated service because that is the need in the community. It's not an expansion because we think we want to join a particular game. It's because the need was there originally and we were never in a position to meet it. And now we believe that we're going to push forward and actually meet the need, keep everything local, keep us small, keep us right here in the middle of the community where we belong.
Well, great. We look forward to that ribbon cutting, and we'll be more than happy to help you out with that. So it's clear that both of your organizations are certainly taking bold approaches to be transformative in our community, and thank you. So our next topic is healthcare, and we're going to jump over to Nikki, and we're going to be speaking about exciting new things with the Little Traverse Bay Band of Odawa Indians.
Thank you, Lisa. Nice job, you guys. Excellent information for sure. So we know that healthcare is an issue for not just many residents in our community, but our entire country. And we also know that access to affordable healthcare can be a major challenge for businesses. It can hamper workforce production, it hampers family dynamics. We know that it has direct impacts on employee performance and community well-being. And with that in mind, we are extremely excited to make a little bit of an announcement because not everybody knows this yet. So this is pretty exciting and very much in line with what Peter was just talking about as well. So Jordy Warner is joining us, and she is the health director for the Little Traverse Bay Bands of Odawa Indians. And we're going to talk about a brand new clinic serving the Medicaid population of Northern Michigan, the Crooked Tree Wellness Clinic. Just opened this month. So can we talk first about what makes this clinic so unique?
Sure. Before we get started, I wanted to thank you. Thanks. I usually talk loud enough anyway. Before we get started, I want to say Chi-miigwech, Nikki, thank you very much for inviting the tribe to participate in the State of the Community. We're very honored to be a part of this event today and very excited to talk about Crooked Tree Wellness Clinic. So who are we? We are a clinic that is focusing only on Medicaid clients in Northern Michigan. So let's talk a little bit about the background of that. When we look at Medicaid in Northern Michigan, Medicaid is the government-sponsored insurance program that's available to people who live at the poverty level or just above the poverty level. And when you look at the 3 counties immediately surrounding Petoskey, there are over 12,000 people who have Medicaid insurance. Expand that circle a little wider to 5 counties in Northern Michigan, and that number is at 20,000. That is a big need and a lot of need to fill. And we don't have all the resources that we need to meet that need. And so we are fortunate to have federally qualified health centers sprinkled through the counties that do meet that need, do help to meet that need. And then we have our private healthcare agencies and clinics who provide some Medicaid care, but not to too many people. And so the results of that can be that people who have Medicaid insurance don't always seek health care because they don't have a place to go get it. We heard the Blue Cross representative talk about, get your A1C checked, get your blood pressure checked, et cetera. But a lot of the Medicaid population does not have a medical home to go do that. And so their issues can escalate to the point that they end up getting treatment in the ER, they end up in the hospital, et cetera. So our goal is to try to stop that. We want to try to offer a place where people can come and get those services. So what makes us unique is that we are only open to the Medicaid population.
And what makes it extremely unique for everyone probably listening, and they might not think of this, is that, so not only is it only open to the Medicaid population, but this is not just open to tribal members, is it? It's
No.
open to non-tribal members as well. So anyone in our communities, in our counties that has that need is eligible to go to the Crooked Tree Wellness Clinic. What prompted you to bring it all the way out, if you will?
So
And I think I know the answer, but I like the answer a lot.
So we had our first opportunity for our LTBB health department to open our services to non-native people during COVID. And during COVID, we were able to bring vaccines to the community to vaccinate our high-risk Native American population. And then we were able to open the doors and vaccinate non-native people who didn't have access to the vaccines yet either. And we chose the service industry because those employees did not have access to the vaccines yet. And yet they were the ones working out in the grocery stores and in the gas stations and the restaurants. And they were face to face with people all day long, making sure the rest of us had what we needed. So we were really happy to open our doors and provide vaccines for those people. And all in all, when it was all said and done, Little Traverse Bay Bands administered over 10,000 vaccines in our local area. So once that was done, we sat down as a leadership team and we said, okay, we liked that. You know, what else could we do? And so as we started looking at the Medicaid statistics and knowing our own population, we thought that this was a really good fit for us because the Medicaid population is underserved. A lot of our Native population has Medicaid also. We know this population, we serve this population, we have a lot of common ground there. And so we know how to meet people where they're at and provide the care that they need. And so we felt like this was the next step to try to fill a need within the community.
It's absolutely phenomenal. And when you talk about the tribe being that first resource for vaccinations for many people when they wouldn't have had an opportunity for months to be that first round of vaccination. And we had that phone call, and that was probably one of the happiest moments of COVID for me, was that announcement and being able to get that huge amount of people vaccinated in our community. And we were at an event recently, and I asked people, I said, if you had a tribal vaccination, please hold up your hand. And it was a service industry kind of event, and the room's hands just all flew up. And it was such a wonderful thing to see that because so many of them would have been waiting for so long. So I have mine too, so I'm very grateful, as many of us are. So I want to make sure before we wrap this down that everyone is very informed as to, okay, what are hours? What's the availability? How do I make an appointment? Where are you located? Just the good basics since you're so brand new, and website and all that good stuff.
Sure. So the Crooked Tree Wellness Clinic is located here just on the outskirts of Petoskey at 2390 Mitchell Park Drive. That is up at the corner of Mitchell and Division, the Red Cross building that's now the Salvation Army building. We're just east of there, across the street from Louis gas station in that gray medical building there. And our phone number, I believe it's on the slide, and it's that's the best way to call and get an appointment with us is to call our office. We are open Monday through Thursday. Our first appointment's at 7:20 a.m. and the last appointment's at 4:30. And I really liked what you were talking about, integrated care, because that's exactly what we are also trying to provide at this medical home. We are offering primary care, pediatric care, preventive care, chronic disease management. We are also offering counseling services, and we have some psychiatric care available. And pharmacy services. So what we're trying to do is provide like kind of that one-stop shop that a Medicaid client can come to get all of their services at one stop. And what's great about that is when you have all your different kinds of providers working together, you know, not just this piece of you or this piece of you, when they're all together, they can really develop a comprehensive health plan for you and try to stop those issues from escalating. So we're really happy to be offering the service in the community. If I could ask all of you, if you know people who have Medicaid insurance, please help us spread the word. We are open and accepting patients, and we look forward to growing this community or growing this clinic within the community. So thank you.
Jody, thank you so much. It's absolutely fantastic what you're doing, and the Little Traverse Bay Bands of Odawa Indians is doing with this clinic in the community. And as she said, share that news widely, please. I'd like to offer everyone a big round of applause for our first group of speakers. And welcome our next group of speakers to the stage.
Well, I'm happy. I am able to kick off round 2, right?
Yes,
Absolutely.
So here we go. So Boyne Resorts is more than just Boyne Mountain and the Highlands at Harbor Springs. Boyne Resorts is a collection of mountain and lakeside resorts, ski areas, and attractions from British Columbia to Maine, employing 11,000 people. Mike Chumler, General Manager of the Highlands at Harbor, and Jason.
The Highlands is fine.
I'm sorry, the Highlands at Harbor Springs. All right, Highlands. And Jason Pearl, General Manager from Boyne, join us today. So thank you so much. And Boyne Resorts committed to a goal of reducing carbon emissions to net zero throughout North American operations by 2030, becoming an industry leader in clean and renewable energy and sustainability. So Mike, this project is called Forever Project, your sustainability plan, and we were hoping that you could tell us a little bit about what that means and what is being implemented.
Sure. So, yeah, our company realized, the human effect on climate change and the urgency of it, not only to our world, but more specifically our industry, right? We're snow farmers. So we came up with this goal of reducing our carbon emissions to net zero by 2030, which is incredibly lofty. But we're going to need help to get there. And we've solicited an outside company to help us determine not only our baseline, which took a long time to determine, but where we are today, and as we're expanding our properties, where will we be? And what are the steps necessary to take? And again, it's a lofty goal, but one we felt very, passionate about. And certain things we'll be doing, obviously we want to reduce our fuel and electricity usage across our resort. We're ski, we're golf. But we need to do so with 100% clean electric energy. And we were able to do that last year with a company-wide rec purchase. So some of the things we're looking at, at the resort level, the biggest offender for us are buildings, right? And whether it's an existing building and looking at energy audits, putting in heat sensors, light sensors, adding insulation, windows, or just simply changing light bulbs. I think we've changed 3,000 light bulbs converted to LED. So a lot of little things add up to big things. Our fleet, as we look at our fleets, whether it's golf course, we're all electric, but not just the golf cars. We got to go into the maintenance vehicles and work with our vendors that they can produce this stuff. When you get back to the ski side, things like snowcats aren't as prevalent, electric snowcats. We're testing one right now, a hybrid at our Utah resort, and we're excited about the potential there. A snowmobile, all electric snowmobile is on order, and we're testing that out east. So we're going to need partners to help us get there. You think of our snowmaking, we've always been proud of our energy efficient snowmaking, have some patents in that world. We're going to continue to look at ways to streamline our snowmaking technology. And then, like I said, partnerships, looking at the corporate level, the local level. Jason's going to talk about a wonderful partnership and the solar array at Boyne Mountain. And we need to look at our property and say, maybe there's that same opportunity for us. So we're very excited. The other thing I should mention that ties very nicely to the Forever Project happens to be this Sunday. We're doing our Ski Today for a Better Tomorrow event, which is the second annual. And we're proud to be working with a couple organizations who certainly do that, and they build a better tomorrow for our community. So we're taking all of our lift ticket proceeds and giving it to the Little Traverse Conservancy and the Tip of the Mitt Watershed Council. So we're excited to do that. So that, Lisa, is the Forever Project.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And your event coming up and giving back to the organizations in the community, looking out for our environment. That's fabulous. So Jason, we're going to jump over to you, as he alluded, and we would like for you to tell us a little bit more about the solar array project that was installed at Boyne Mountain. It's impressive.
So that it is. We're actually celebrating, I think it was the first. We are officially 1 year live with that project, so super excited to have that under our belt. It is about over 4,000 panels that yield 1.7 megawatts of electricity. In a quick Google search said that That's more than 1,000 houses worth of electricity. Pretty impressive. Unfortunately, it's only about 11% of our energy consumption. And then another 7% is kind of, forgotten almost, as we have a dam as well that generates power for us. So 2 really great resources for us. And while we're not saving too much on the electric end with the solar array, what we are doing is helping the grid curb and lower that demand so that they can hopefully shut down or minimize plant usage and give back and help the community in that sense. So great to have it live and tied in. And there's always more opportunities. So
Thank you. That's great. That's amazing. 4,000 panels, ability to power 1,000 homes. Also, you continue to have exciting changes and additions at both of your properties. And I know that you're looking at some future developments, and we'd love to hear anything that you're able to share with us looking forward.
First off, I don't normally sit this close to someone unless they have the same last name. But anyway, yeah, so you smell pretty good, by the way. We, a little over a year ago in December, we came out with what we're calling our 2030 transformational journey. And it's a big word, and at that time we launched our new name, the Highlands. We launched a new logo, but it truly is a transformative process that we've begun down the road on. And it started, with when you first pull on property, a building we call our Discovery Center. That's where every resort guest checks in now. And it was a residence that we completely gutted, made it this very homey, warm. In fact, you're greeted with a mimosa while you wait to check in. So got that going for you. And then, it's just it's kind of the prelude to the hotel room. So yeah, as you go to our main lodge, it still has that English Tudor feel with the ivy on the outside, but on the inside we have 87 new rooms that are completely reimagined. Higher end appointments, feels a little bit more like a boutique hotel with marble in the bathroom. So very well done, and we're going to bleed that through the rest of the main lodge and have another 37 rooms, totally reimagined pool and spa complex, open air lobby, food and beverage upper and lower, completely overhauled. So pretty aggressive plan for those that are staying on property to enjoy. But then down the hill in our day lodge, we're going to add a new food and beverage outlet called Slope 63. 63 is important. That's the year Mr. Kircher acquired the Highlands. So we're in the midst of our 60th year. So we're excited about that. Beyond the Slope 63 down the hill, we have a short course, golf course behind the hotel we're doing, a brand new one. And probably the most significant, we're going to go through our chairlifts aggressively. And we're breaking ground on what we're calling the Camelot 6 or Cam 6, first of its kind in the Midwest. Boyne Mountain doesn't even have this one. It's a 6-passenger, but it's a bubble. It's a bubble, folds down, heated seats, pretty cozy and comfy, auto-lowering safety bar. So for little kids, it's the safest on the planet. So we're excited about that. We're going to go through the rest of our lifts as well in the near term. We're going to take all the chairs. The cool part about this lift is this one lift is replacing 3. So 3 lifts we're taking out of circulation with a combined age of 172 years of service on them. So I think we got our money's worth. And we're going to take all those chairs and sell them, and we're going to donate all the proceeds to local charities. So that's the cool part.
Very cool.
Jason, is there anything you would like to highlight that you are working on your property?
Nothing really going on at Boyne Mountain. I will say we're a little more casual, so I opted today for no sport coat. But on the electric front, we just debuted Moon bikes, which are an all-electric snowmobile bike hybrid. They're phenomenal. Excited about that, and as it ties to the sustainability piece, as people may have heard of Skybridge, Michigan, as we affectionately refer to it as Michigan's second bridge. So far, great response. It's just as spectacular in the winter as it is in the summertime. We, in December, debuted Disciples 8, the new 8-person chairlift, which is serving that terrain well. And oh, by the way, night skiing in Disciples starts tonight. Bundle up. So very excited about that. And again, we donated chairs from the 2 old lifts that replaced to the Charlevoix Community Foundation, or proceeds, I should say, to establish a fund for youth within the community. Beyond that, this year, we'll be celebrating our 75th anniversary. So that's a huge milestone. We thought it'd be the perfect opportunity to debut the world's first 12-person chairlift. Just kidding. Everyone thought we were crazy with 8. So that is a joke, for the record. We are replacing the Boylan and Super Bowl chairlifts, which will be, again, much needed, efficient, great experience. And there are at least a half a dozen, if not dozen, other projects relating to snowmaking, resort infrastructure, food and beverage that I can't yet talk about, but more things will be coming, including a couple more lift tidbits. So certainly excited for the community and the economy, and staffing has been, I think we're personally seeing a better response. So very excited. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing what you are working out to help out our climate, as well as just to have wonderful facilities for people to recreate. So thank you for that. Love to give you a round of applause. Celebrate your anniversaries. So our next topic is one of the ever important topics that we talk about, and that's housing. So we're going to jump over to Dan for that.
Well, we know that housing continues to be a challenge for Emmett County residents, and it's been on the docket for many years. I mean, I think everybody has battled with this, whether you're a business owner, individual, an employee. So we went back in there. I know that 2019, there was a Northwest Michigan target market analysis. Pretty fancy word for saying, okay, what do we need? This is what surprised me when we started looking into this. There was a need that they said that there was going to be 2,288 housing units needed through 2025. That's not very far from now. Now, 1,825 of those being rentals, and then 463 of those being owner units. That's a lot of housing that there's a need here, not just a wish, but a need. So the chamber's been, obviously, you've heard about this year in, year out, and they've been hearing about this from the participants, their members, employers, saying, we need these, we're difficult, and every one of you knows this. I mean, we've been through this issue, and we're trying now to figure out how to address it. So this is neat to see when you bring somebody in, and there's actually been an initiative started. And I'm excited to introduce right now Tammy Dornberg, and I've known Tammy for a long time, and she is the Emmett County Director of Planning and Zoning. So welcome, Tammy.
Thank you.
So I've kind of set the stage a little bit that something might be changing here. We'll talk a little bit about maybe some of the changes in zoning that are going to be beneficial for this.
Sure. Well, thank you for the opportunity to share what we've been doing. Often we hear that zoning is a barrier to housing, and we've been trying to brainstorm with staff, brainstorm with Little Traverse Bay Housing Partnership and citizens of our county to see what we could do to make a difference. I think Mike said it best when he said little changes make a big difference, and that's what we're trying to do with housing with regard to zoning in Emmett County. We couldn't have done it without the support of our Planning Commission and our Board of Commissioners. They allowed us to make these changes, and they're the ones who have the decision-making power. But what they have allowed us to do is change our zoning ordinance to allow for accessory dwelling units on a single lot of record. So if you have a house on your property and you would like to build a smaller house for someone to live in long-term, you can do that now in Emmett County under the townships that have county zoning. I know that the city of Petoskey is looking into this as well, and it is something that is also being discussed in the city of Harbor Springs. So it's not just happening with Emmett County townships that have county zoning, it's happening across the entire county in the cities and
So previous to this, though, previously or currently to these changes, what type of an area would be not allowed to have a second home on it? I mean, is there certain size lots? Are we talking about?
You couldn't have an accessory dwelling unit under county zoning unless you had enough land to support 2 dwellings. Okay. So if you had a 1 acre parcel, you could have 1 house if it was in farm forest. Now you could have 1 primary house and 1 smaller house for the people that you would want to live in that house. Another thing that we've changed is we allow now duplexes where single-family homes were allowed. Duplexes are also allowed by right, not for short-term rental. They could be used for longer term. That's a change. And then also we reduced the minimum size for a house. It used to be under county zoning, 720 square feet was the minimum. We heard a lot, where can I put a tiny home? And the answer was, the smallest you can have is 720. Well, we've reduced that now to 560 in most zoning districts. So that's a change. Again, incremental changes to try to tap away and chip away at the things that we can change. And over time, maybe they'll make a big difference. Another big change, we allow cluster housing projects to be approved administratively. It doesn't have to go through the Planning Commission review process. There are several standards that have to be met for that to be done, but it is possible. We created a whole new zoning section called Planned Unit Development Residential Overlay, and that was for developers to be able to come in and pretty much modify the zoning to fit what they would like to have on the property. It didn't have to be zoned for multiple family, but they could put multiple family. And there are some projects that are being started right now as a result of that, so we're pretty excited about that. And then we also increase the density on properties that have sewer or water. So where you might have been able to have maybe 8 units before, the number has been changed to 10. And we are actually looking at changing it again to make it even more than that. So stay tuned for those changes.
So are you in the midst right now of still looking at everything and trying to say, okay, what next changes are we putting in place? What I'm looking for, is there a chance for input from other people on the outside?
It's a perfect opportunity. Right now,
Okay.
we have some changes in line to be reviewed by the Planning Commission at their February 9th meeting. So anyone interested, come on down to the Emmett County Planning Commission meeting at 7 p.m. at the county building. So we're proposing, again, to increase the density. We are proposing to allow triplexes and quadplexes on single-family dwelling lots, again, for longer-term rental, not short-term. And then allowing dwellings in all zoning districts, not just residential zones, but in farm forests, they're already allowed there, but also in commercial zones, so you can have mixed-use development as uses allowed by right. So anyone that would like to offer suggestions, you don't have to come to the meeting. You could certainly email me or call me, and we'd be happy to present any suggestions to our Planning Commission.
Well, there you go. Now we have 210 people now are going to be emailing you. All right, so now we're talking about the changes, which is great, and obviously that ball will start to roll as now developers and people start thinking about adding housing. I have heard it multiple times now that people are now starting to think about that, adding another home onto their lot or adding another home onto the property, and it could be either family or just doing employees. I've had that happen multiple times. Is there anything right now that's happening as we speak, housing development changes?
There are things happening right now. It's kind of exciting. There's a slide that shows the residential development that has been approved, and it is underway. They started their excavation for 128 home sites. Probably that'll start to rent out maybe this year. For sure by next year, I would think that we would have some housing units on that property. That one with the residential overlay, they were able to subsidize the housing cost for a short period of time, for 8 years. They can have campground on this property. So they'll have probably 20 to 25 new homes a year they're anticipating that they can build. And while they're building those homes, they'll have the campground on the north end of their property so that they can make this project work out financially. So that's one project. The next one that we're seeing coming underway is one that was allowed because we have duplexes that could go into Farm Forest zoning district now. So this is in Maple River Township. Duplexes started in the fall of 2022, and thanks to Andrea from Housing Partnership and Housing North for sending the gentleman our way that wanted to put in some housing in Emmett County. He's underway right now with these. Foundations are in for duplex there. The third one, we have duplexes that are going into the Meadows area off of Anderson Road. This was an existing residential development that had space on the land. You can see on the aerial there are boxes, little boxes there, but there were no buildings under those. Those are now being built, and those are duplexes that were allowed quite a while ago, probably in the late 1990s, early 2000s. They started that project, and then it stalled, and they were able to start those up again. So that's infill development that we like to see. And then this isn't an initiative that is part of the changes that we've seen, but thanks to Habitat for Humanity for the work that they're doing, we are seeing infill again on a development that had vacant lots for many, many years. And we issued last year 10 new home permits for Habitat for Humanity. And I looked this morning, and most of those have had their rough inspections, and they're getting ready to get their final inspections pretty soon. So that's really exciting.
Very much so, yeah. Thank you. So we teed you up for that one a little bit because we knew the answer is coming through. And it's got to be exciting from your standpoint of actually participating in these changes and providing the value, to what our area has always needed. And I'm sure it's tough because you're trying to hold the bar at a certain level of being, here's where we're at. And we want to make sure that we remain the quality of the area, but at the same time, where is our need? So I'll give you kudos. It's really hard to do your job because, we've known each other for a long time, and it's a very difficult job to do, but I think it's got a great purpose now. And now there's some new energy that's in your office along with you. And so I think it's going to be very exciting on that. So I'm going to tee you up for another one. And we're going to talk a little bit about, there's a little collaboration going on across the board, as you're talking already. And we're talking about different entities and relates to, I want to say, like redevelopment areas. We'll talk a little bit about brownfield, land bank authority. How do you interact on that? Or I'm going to tee you up again a little bit as what areas do you see as up and coming collaboration between those areas?
Wow, there's a lot of collaboration going on. I think that Lofts at Lumber Square with the Petoskey Harbor Springs Area Community Foundation is a great example of that. Emmett County has been involved with that project as the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority approved a brownfield plan for that site. So we're participating with that. Land Bank Authority has been involved with the city of Petoskey on a couple of projects. There's some blight elimination grants that are available right now through the state of Michigan, and thanks to our legislature for making that happen. We're able to see some of that money coming into Emmett County. It's been a long time coming, but some of the projects that we have now are able to experience some benefit from those changes that we're seeing at the state level as well. We also have a tribal housing development that was approved for funding through the state. So those are exciting projects. We're working collaboratively in so many areas. I think it's good to get the word out. I see a lot of realtors here today and financial individuals, and everyone comes to the table like at the Little Traverse Bay Housing Partnership meetings, and we discuss the issues that we're having. But if we all talk together and come up with a little bit of a solution together, we can make a difference in this housing issue that we have.
Perfect. Thank you so much for doing that. Well, the progress I think that you've gone, the work that you've done, and all the different entities involved inside of changing this is finally making a difference. I mean, this is great. I give you guys kudos for doing a lot of that. I want to turn now for our final topic of government and economy with Nikki.
Thank you very much. So I have with me, did I introduce you guys before you had to do this sit together? I didn't, did I? Okay, good. That was great.
That's my new friend.
Sorry about that. Cozy couch. So we are now going to take a look at our government and economy with Shane Horn, who is the city manager for the city of Petoskey, and Henry Wolf, who is the government relations director for the Northern Michigan Chamber Alliance. A great deal has been accomplished between these two gentlemen, even though they just met backstage. Separately, you're both under the basically year timeline. So you've been in your position for a year, you've been in your position for 8 months. That takes a little bit of getting used to sometimes when you're running into those new situations. So Shane, I'm going to start with you. It is absolutely no secret in the city of Petoskey who you are, because you are out, you are visible, you are everywhere, you're learning about the businesses, the residents, and that's been pretty much your top priority, is really digging in deep. And so I want to thank you for doing that, because that really does matter. It makes a big difference for our community when you really want to be a part of it from the get-go. But I want you to kind of start us off with highlights of challenges, opportunities. What have you seen in that first 8 months?
Yeah, thank you, Nikki. And thank you to each of you for the warm welcome that my wife and I have received in Petoskey. It's been outstanding. I have tried to be really intentional about getting out in the community, meeting folks, many of you that I see out in the audience, and I would certainly extend that invitation to anyone that wants to talk to me about all things Petoskey. I've tried to really be a good listener and just a sponge and absorb that. But in my takeaways from my one-on-ones, I really found Petoskey residents, as I've been around the community, to be very passionate about their community. They love this community. You can see their eyes light up when they start talking about the city and the region and all the different amenities that we provide, the parks, the natural resources, the cultural amenities that we enjoy, like this building. And I've also found them to be very engaged. They're very involved in their community on many different levels, and that's very important from a local government standpoint, because that's what we're trying to get people to get involved in local government, get involved in the issues that impact them. And just resilient. I really appreciate getting back to Michigan and the Midwest. Recently was in Tennessee. I have found this region and Michigan and overall and Midwest area to be very resilient folks. You know, we all came out today in single-digit weather. We had some pretty significant lake effect snow before Christmas, and my staff was giving me a hard time because I was like, should I issue a snow emergency for this event? And they're like, buckle up, this is nothing. So I certainly appreciate that, and certainly glad to be back in the state that I was born in, certainly. But as we look at challenges and opportunities, we've talked about affordable housing, and certainly that is a huge issue. And I would echo Tammy's comments and DJ's comments about collaboration. This is such a big issue, and I don't feel like we as the city have to solve this all on our own. We've got a lot of great partners, Housing North and NLEA, and everybody that's really trying to tackle this issue in a collaborative effort. It's been very gratifying to see that. But our parks and natural areas as well, that's such a treasure in our community. And when we look at that, however, there's a very high bar from a standard of excellence that folks expect from a city to provide service levels. And that's challenging in a climate where maybe budgets are a little tighter, our resources are a little tighter. We want to make sure we're always putting Petoskey's best foot forward for our visitors, because we all know the economic driver that this region is and how that trickles down to everything around us. Our wonderful downtown, what a driver that is economically as well. The walkability of the downtown, really that's what kind of sealed the deal for me to get here. I just love this downtown, all the excitement, the activities, the events that happen. We got an event coming up in a couple of weeks that I'm really excited to participate in. So just seeing the hub of activity down there is very exciting. The challenge that I think we're facing as well, and I think many of you probably face the same challenge, is in hiring. And, when you look at recruiting and retaining our employees and the affordable housing aspect, how does that all tie together? We have a couple public safety officer positions that we're trying to fill, and it's been challenging. In the good old days, we could see upwards of over 100 candidates. We're not seeing that right now, and so we're really having to kind of recalibrate how do we recruit, and how do we get out there and kind of push our region to folks. And candidates are a little different today than they were maybe 10 years ago and what they're expecting. So we have to change and be willing to change on the fly, if you will. But as we talk about planning and zoning, Tammy picked on some of that in her address, but the city does have accessory dwelling units, that we allow those now. We've gone through that process with our planning commission and city council, so we're excited about that. We're starting a process of trying to condense some of our zoning districts in an effort to really remove some of those barriers to housing. We don't want to be reasons why people can't afford to live in Petoskey. We want to open up those opportunities going forward. And then the whole dichotomy of visitors versus full-time residents. And that's an interesting dichotomy that I've heard in my conversations. Is some of the focus is, well, you're doing all this stuff for our visitors. What about us as full-time residents? And so we certainly want to be aware of that and engage with our full-time residents as well. We're not forgetting anyone. This is why we're here as a local government, to provide service to each and every one of you. So how do we do that the most cost-effective and productive way? Certainly that's the input we want to receive, because it's the same thing with hiring. We need to retain our employees as well. So we don't want to forget that piece of it. And we don't want to forget the full-time residents who have made it their have made the decision to really locate here and kind of enjoy the surroundings with everyone else.
So you've been busy.
Busy, yes.
Congratulations, Shane. Thank you very much. Henry, so the Petoskey Chamber was one of the founding partners of the Northern Michigan Chamber Alliance. And sometimes we try to explain it, and it's not the easiest thing in the world. So I'm going to put that task on you. Can you tell those who don't know, what is the Northern Michigan Chamber Alliance? Who does it represent? And what are its goals?
Yeah, absolutely. And many of you I've met before, but for those of you I haven't, my name is Henry Wolf, Director of Government Relations for the Northern Michigan Chamber Alliance. Actually, born right here in Petoskey and grew up in Boyne City. So great to be back and working for a coalition of 16 chambers of commerce in the Northern Michigan Chamber Alliance, which is a coalition of chambers of commerce all north of US 10 that have come together to advocate for policy changes and appropriation wins at the state level and federal level for Northern Michigan. So we're made up of 8 partner chambers, including, of course, Petoskey, Charlevoix, Manistee, Traverse City, Gaylord, Cadillac, Alpena, and Marquette. And a couple of our associate chambers are here today as well. I see Carol from Sheboygan, Lisa from Boyne City, and it's been a great year so far. I mean, like Nikki said, it's been a heck of a year, and really what we do is advocate both for policy and appropriations for things that will remove barriers to business growth. And I think a lot of these topics have been hit on, and I guess I'll go ahead and quote Senator Darwin Boer and say I think everything's been said, but not everyone has said it. So I'll do my best to elaborate as specifically as I can. But part of our goal or part of what we mean when we talk about these policy and appropriations wins, that all revolves around creating relationships with our legislators here in Northern Michigan and also at the state level. So when the alliance was originated, I mean, we're stronger together. We have a bigger voice together. And when we go down in Lansing, and we were just there, actually had a meeting with Representative Frisky and Representative DeMoose down in Lansing for the State of the State last week. But when these legislators hear the Northern Michigan Chamber Alliance and that we're a coalition of 16 chambers of commerce, I mean, that to them says Northern Michigan. And we carry a lot more weight when we say that. And in terms of the specific accomplishments, I think I'll be able to get into that later on in the program. But that's a lot of what we do is create and maintain these relationships with legislators and try to advocate for policy changes that will remove those barriers to business growth, talent attraction being central to that. And as we've heard here before, housing and childcare, those are at the top of the list, and they probably will be for some time. So looking forward to sharing some more of those details here in a second, but I hope I did okay. And that's basically what we are.
You did okay. You got your bosses in here too, so we're just like, no, good job. Shane, I would love to know, it's amazing again, busy year. City Council took some major action items in 2022 to address a lot of the issues to affordable housing, as you mentioned, ADUs and many more. But when you're looking at, the top of the year and what do you want to go forward with next, what are some of those big major projects? And what do you think for your big wins, where are you going next?
Yeah, just to use 22 for an example, to see the progress we've made in infrastructure, and I really kudos to our city council for making this a priority item. Lake Street, the East Lake Street reconstruction from Division to Kalamazoo, everything that was involved in that's a $4 million project. New water, sewer, storm. All the undergrounding of electric utilities that was involved in that. And I am so impressed with our commitment to undergrounding our electrical infrastructure and just what that does for neighborhoods in our area, because we all love the views that we share as we look at the bay. So that was a huge project that we committed to and completed. And again, kudos to our council and Public Works Department for seeing that project through. Also want to recognize our Public Safety Department. We went through a pretty substantial accreditation process, really looking at all of our policies, procedures, directives, getting those standardized, if you will, to make sure that we're conceptually sound and effective. Want to credit former Director Matt Breed and our current Lieutenant Carr for that work. That was a fairly significant heavy lift, and it was certainly great recognition for us. We now are the 42nd law enforcement agency out of 588 in the state of Michigan to reach that accreditation status. So as we look at 23, in the budget currently, we do have, and this was again a collaboration with Petoskey school system, to have a full-time school resource officer in place within the school system. So that was a 50-50 partnership with the school system. We're certainly thrilled with that collaboration as well. And then we also have a full-time code enforcement officer position that we're going to be hiring here soon. So the big projects, the affordable housing projects, will continue into 23. Obviously, these are projects that really don't pencil out without incentives involved with them. So as a council, city council, we're working with developers to really come alongside these projects and really figure out what incentive makes the most sense and working through that scenario. So that project will continue. We're working with the developer on Emmett in Michigan, the former Hotel Del Rey location. That's currently a severely blighted structure that the developer is looking to do upwards of about 12 affordable units there that will be workforce housing project. The Little Travis Wheelway is another significant project that we are looking for our partners' support. We meet monthly with Becca and Brent with the Trails Council to try to put our heads together and figure out what this could look like. We're working with our consultants to kind of put a framework together, and we have grant requests out currently that we're seeking grant funding to help us really redesign that and put that trail network back together. It's a pretty significant lift, but we've got some great people around the table that are working collaboratively together. Also excited to talk about some new EV chargers coming to town. We'll have 4 new electric vehicle chargers, one in the Bayfront Park, actually 2 in the Bayfront Park near City Hall, one replacing the Darling Lot location and one in the Elks Lot. So between these 4, this will provide 7 new charging ports, and that will be functional this spring. So we're excited to add that to our opportunities.
That's a big list. That's fantastic. All right, Henry, you were chomping at the bit because you wanted to talk about the successes of 22 that the Alliance had. And also I want you to, great successes, but what's on the horizon? What matters most when we're looking at from an Alliance perspective of what are the needs of our businesses where their voice needs to be stronger?
Exactly, and I think I'll start with that. What matters most right now, back on the relationships, is identifying some of those common denominators like housing, so that we can build coalitions across the state. We're looking at a situation in the state legislature right now where the 2 appropriations chairs are both from the Lansing area, the Senate Majority Leader from Grand Rapids, and the Speaker of the House from Detroit, and that's just at the start of the list. So the Alliance will be focused on identifying some of those issues like housing. Short-term rentals are another big topic, not just here, but across the state in some of those more tourist-dense regions. So we'll be focused on building relationships with new legislators and building coalitions across the state and finding some common ground. I think the budget process will always be big for us, but especially this year, as we saw, some of us may have heard about the $9 billion surplus that was at least projected at the Revenue Estimating Conference a couple of weeks ago. The governor's going to come out with her budget net recommendation in the next couple of weeks, and the Alliance will actually be hosting the state treasurer and the budget director again for a presentation on their priorities and a conversation about what we can get across the finish line for Northern Michigan. So that's really at the top of the list, at least for the rest of the winter and the spring, is to keep building those relationships and dive into the budget process as well. But I think the slide, in terms of some of the successes for 2022, I think this slide here shows the Office of Rural Development, which was one of our most proud accomplishments this year. For those that aren't familiar, a few years ago, the Northern Michigan Chamber Alliance developed an idea for a department within the Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development, a new department that was solely focused on rural development rather than, obviously agricultural issues are important here in the north, but rural development focused on restoring vitalities to rural communities, bringing new talent to the area, and of course working on things like housing and childcare. And the Alliance will now have an additional advocate in the Office of Rural Development to help with that and to help double down on some of these requests that we'll have for the governor's administration in the coming years. But back in 2019, when this idea was developed, it had been a few years, and then in January of 2022, the governor established this new Office of Rural Development by executive order. And frankly, some of us were a bit surprised by the timing, but we were ready to get to work. And the first thing that the governor needed to do was appoint somebody to lead that department. And we were sad to see our chamber director in Marquette go, but Sarah Lucas, former Alliance member, was appointed in March to lead the Office of Rural Development. And she had a big task in front of her. I mean, the governor had included a $10 million ask for the Office of Rural Development in her executive budget recommendation, but legislators understandably had questions because this was new to them as well. So it was just Sarah in the office with a little bit of support built in from MDARD, but it was the Alliance and Sarah Lucas working to identify an office structure and a list of specific priorities that the office could tackle in the new term. And that's what we focused on. I think there's a picture up here from our summer lobby day. That's what we focused on for our summer lobby day. We created a one-page document that answered most of these questions that legislators had, met with them, talked with them about any concerns they had about how these dollars were being spent. And eventually, that resulted in a $3.5 million appropriation for the Office of Rural Development, $500,000 of that ongoing to support staff and administrative costs. So that's built in the budget this year, and I think it's probably safe to say it'll be in there for the next 4 years. But that's just one example about how hands-on we really can get when we have these relationships, and when it comes time to put the rubber to the road. We really helped write what that office is going to do, and the office structure as well. So they will be coming out with a new grant program in the coming months, and now they're fully staffed. So 4 years ago, nobody was talking about that. Nobody had ever heard of that. And now there's a whole new state department dedicated to rural development because of an idea that the Alliance came up with years ago. And Nikki told me I had to keep this short, so I'll go quicker on on some of the other ones. But I think on this slide as well is childcare, which we've hit on. The Alliance helped initiate an 8-bill package that was geared toward regulatory reforms to lessen the burden on childcare providers. And some of those reforms included expanding the number of children that one adult can look after. There was a grace period for providers to comply with some of those new regulations. Things like that. So that bill package that was signed by the governor last summer was the biggest step that I have seen in my 12 years around Lansing in addressing some of those regulatory hurdles from that childcare providers face. So we know that the work on childcare isn't done yet at all, but we took a huge first step last term as well. So I think on the next slide, and I do want to highlight the election guide as well, because we're focused on policy and appropriations wins, but this year we played a pretty big role in getting the word out about what some of these new House and Senate districts looked like after redistricting. I've been doing this for almost 12 years now, and it was tough for me to keep up with, wait, who's representing where? I mean, you had so many legislators terming out, so you had a lot of new faces and new district lines, and nobody really knew who to contact and or any information about some of these people. So the Alliance developed our election guide that we posted on our website, which gave information like showed the new district lines, candidate information, campaign finance, ways to contact the candidates. And we're excited that we're going to be turning that into a tool to contact your legislators so that as we talk about building coalitions, we'll have one easy place that we can do that across the north. And then on the second slide, I think this is really, in terms of budget wins for this year, was we had a lot of great successes, and you'll see a picture here of when we welcomed the state budget director to North Central Michigan College last summer as well, to show him firsthand some of the success stories of Michigan Reconnect and how it's really impacted adult learners here in Northern Michigan. So when we talk about attracting members of the workforce is important, but a lot of the times it would be easier to retain some of the talent that we have here. And so making sure that we have an educated workforce that won't face the same financial barriers to pursuing their education is a big deal. And we wanted to double down on that with the budget director and show him firsthand. And with the help of Dr. Finley, that's what we did. And again, excited to welcome him back to Northern Michigan in the next couple of months. Also, the state's Tri-Share Child Care Pilot Program, which for those that don't know, allows employees to split the cost of childcare with the state and with their employer. And we were happy to see that that program received $2.5 million in additional funding and has also expanded to new areas in Northern Michigan. And while we understand, and this is one of the most creative ways I've seen to lower the cost for working parents of childcare, but we understand that there are still some kinks that could be worked out in the Tri-Share program. So we understand that some of those income thresholds are maybe a little bit too low. So we want to make sure that we include as many working parents as we can. And the Chamber Alliance is getting firsthand examples of that and bringing them down to our legislators in Lansing so that they can talk with the appropriations chairs and talk with the right people about what needs to be done to fix that program so it can reach and help more people. And then, of course, going pro, also involves upskilling some of our workers here in Northern Michigan, not just in the manufacturing sector, but in fields like healthcare and IT. And so we're really honing in on or I should say, our state is now at a point where we're honing in on some of those proven programs that have been in the budget for a few years. And I feel like a lot of the experimentation phase is over. And we know Pure Michigan has been very helpful with bolstering the tourism industry in Northern Michigan. But one thing the Alliance is trying to drive home is that it's not just about tourism and economic activity as much as it is about emphasizing the quality of life, as Shane alluded to, emphasizing quality of life as a means of talent attraction. So we'll be doubling down on Pure Michigan again this year.
We're going to be busy.
Very busy.
Sounds good. Thank you both very much. And Dan, it is back to you to send us off and on our way.
Sit up. No.
Okay, that works.
Yeah. Hey, I want to say thank you to everybody for taking time and spending time today. Especially thank you to the speakers. Thank for all of you who put the reports together. Thank you for the Petoskey Chamber staff behind the scenes. As a chair, I do nothing really besides just get other people here and kind of coordinate a little bit. But I'm telling you what, this group is really an advocate for all of us. I was talking to David Bailing earlier, and I've been thinking about this, is that we don't necessarily see things in the public or in the news about things that are good necessarily, collaboration, the good things that are happening in this world. You're seeing it here. Now you're starting to see that a little bit. It's just those who work and do the work don't necessarily need the spotlight. So that, I think, I hopefully can highlight some of those in the spotlight today. Hope you have a great 2023, prosperous, be kind, be gentle, and enjoy. Take care. Thank you.